Welcome to the AI for Interior Designers podcast, where creativity meets cutting-edge technology. In each episode, we dive deep into the world of artificial intelligence and explore how it's revolutionizing the interior design industry. From AI-powered design tools to the latest trends and innovations, we've got you covered. So plug in, relax, and let's embark on this exciting journey together. Welcome to AI for Interior Designers podcast. P.S. This intro was written by and voiced by AI to sound like your host, Jenna Gaidusek.
Hey designers, welcome back for episode 52 of the AI for Interior Designers podcast. I'm your host, Jenna Gaidusek, and today I am being joined by a guest, and this is somebody that I have known for a long time. I'd say probably about 5 years, but personally, probably like 3.5. And I say that because she actually acquired my company, eDesign Tribe and eDesign U, the rendering platform and the education and community stuff. And we just joined forces back in 2022. And I did that because I genuinely think that she had created a wonderful software for interior designers called MyDoma. And her husband built that together as a solution that just didn't exist as she was practicing in her own firm. So the questions came up, would you be interested in potentially joining forces here back in 2021? And I was like, I don't know that I want to, but I really like what you guys stand for. I think you're really here for the designers. And Sarah has proven that time and time again since I've known her in the past 3 years. She just genuinely is here for the community. And you'll see that in this episode, I think. This is not a sponsored episode. This is just simply like Sarah and I talking as we normally do, because we have, I would say, became very good friends going through the design and tech side of this industry together and looking for solutions that will genuinely help designers. That's always our goal. So with what I teach and with what Sarah and her husband have built, and then now in the past year was acquired by Studio Designer, it's pretty incredible, the perspective that she brings. So the questions that she's going to ask me today are also, I think, very insightful for you all, because she asks things in a way that I can't just like say, if I were to do a solo episode. So this is honestly, I think a great conversation, and it really fits into any designer's workflow, whether you're using MyDoma or Studio Designer or not. Our conversation that we're going to have here is really for everybody to just see temperature check. Where are we with the tools and the workflows and feasibility of AI right now? And where could we potentially be going? Without further ado, here's Sarah Daniele, the principal of Designer Solutions, now for MyDoma and Studio Designer, and me. And Sarah's going to interview me today, which I love that perspective. So here we go. All right. Hey, Sarah, thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Jenna. So excited to be here.
I know we've been planning on this for a while. So life just happened and here we are finally.
Yeah. Long time coming.
It is. It is. So we're going to do this episode a little bit different. And I love this idea. So every time, I have a guest on, I always say, what do you want to talk about? And how does it relate to AI? And I kind of leave it open-ended with your expertise. But Sarah had a great idea to maybe interview me this time and ask questions about my AI knowledge and evolution and just how I'm using it in workflow. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to have a conversation. Sarah's going to rapid fire some questions, I guess, or just not rapid fire, but.
All right. I'm going to rapid fire. You're going to go as fast as possible.
All right. What do you got?
Okay. So here's the thing. So at MyDoma and Studio Designer, we work with thousands and thousands of designers. And so we're at this influx of having the ability we build workflow and accounting software. And obviously as product developers, we are keeping our finger on the pulse of AI and how our designers how can we leverage it for our company, and how can we leverage it in the softwares that we build to make the workflows better for the designers. So I thought, let's do a little product research. You talk to designers, I talk to designers. I'd love to know, do you have a number one tool as of now? Granted, knowing that things change every day. Is there something a tool that you're really loving right now, seeing designers use?
Yeah. So do you want to go we have two different directions that we could take with this. We can go with the visual side or maybe more of the business workflow, because I do have favorites in both buckets of AI.
Let's do both. Let's start with the visual.
Okay, so with the visuals, ChatGPT, with the upgrade that came out to DALL-E, the image generator, back in the end of March, that is what I'm primarily using right now for mockups, for like really incredible imagery, but it is only for like visual communication. It is not replacing rendering. It is just simply cutting down on the amount of revisions that you would have to take because you didn't communicate, accurately, or they didn't like it. And then they saw the render and you're like, well, that just took me 13 hours. So I guess I'll redo everything now. And it's just wasting everybody's time and money. Cutting out and using more accurate visuals to communicate ideas. And ChatGPT has just been like the number one to be able to get fairly accurate with products and fabrics and materials and even layouts. I have a second favorite, and that one I use for more like branded graphics. And now it also does images and video. So you can turn your images all in one program into video clips. So if you saw the 19 hours ad that I had, those were all done in Visual Electric. So that's my favorite for that.
But I was going to ask.
Yeah. Visual Electric's interesting because it's comprised of a variety of different generative AI models. So it's not just its own model. It basically will pull from ChatGPT. It pulls from all of the other really big image generators, and you can choose which model you want to use, both for video and for imagery. So it's a one-stop shop, so you don't have to have 15 different tabs open in different programs trying to do the same thing.
Love that. I've only admittedly played with Visual Electric a little bit, and probably because you told me to, in all transparency.
Yep.
So those are your top two as of today's recording.
Yep.
Are you feeling pretty confident about those being your two major visual tools, or are there others that you're still dabbling in for certain things? Or can designers, I'd say, like, could they use both those two for the most part?
Yeah, I'd say for the most part you can because, ChatGPT is $20 a month. And that also goes to the other side of the question, which is more of like the back end business stuff. So it's killing two birds with one stone for $20 a month. And then Visual Electric has a ton of different pricing tiers depending on how much your usage is. But with only having to pay for that one subscription versus going to upgrade to Pro with all of the other, like, Gemini or whatever else creates images, it's all in one and it's one subscription. So for right now, I think I'm good with these two programs. And honestly, they've been my go-tos for now almost 2 years as my core visual AI tools. Previously, I was also using Midjourney. I probably still have a subscription, but it just I didn't love it as much as what I can do in Visual Electric with the styles that I can set for consistency with branding.
That's a good point, because I also still pay for a Midjourney. Thank you for reminding me, which I have not used it in quite some time. I am actively using my ChatGPT for my visuals. But you're saying with Visual Electric, we can get more of a consistent look and feel?
Yeah, so you can create styles. I think they changed the name of it recently, and I'm blanking on what they changed it to. But basically, I have created a brand style for myself by uploading my logo and then kind of tweaking it with resource images. And it's this blend of like my brand colors and this futuristic like nod of nostalgia. And that's like if you see my images, like now, can you kind of see that if you go to my site?
Absolutely. I can see the prompts, the style guides you built. Like after, I absolutely can tell the prompts you put in.
Yeah, so it's the same consistent look. It's just changing the words and getting different output and then consistently being able to show up with all my brand colors in different settings, I guess.
Okay, let's talk about that from a workflow for a
Mhm.
designer. So if I'm working on a specific project and unlike your brand, which is staying super consistent, I may as a company have like a general look and feel of what I like to do for an interior, but on a specific project, that's going to change, right? Based on customer needs. Can I create a style guide, say for a specific project to generate the inspiration images I'm trying to do in Visual Electric, or would I be better suited doing that in Chat?
You could do it either way. The reason why I wouldn't do it in ChatGPT, the only reason, and I probably still would be because I would have to keep telling it over and over again. It's not a preset setting where I click a button and I just have that consistency. It's me repetitively saying, here's what I want, here's the inspiration, because it's chat based, right? So you're having a chat conversation where in Visual Electric, you're giving a prompt, you're selecting what you want to see and applying just by clicking the style, and then you give it the words and then it generates. And then you can do iterations, but the editing is more like a Photoshop, a photo edit versus like a chat conversation to edit a picture, which you get in ChatGPT.
So I'm going to ask that again, so I feel very confident. So in Visual Electric, when I'm editing, did you say it's editing as if like similar tools to Photoshop, or am I actually bringing it into Photoshop from?
No,
Visual
it's similar in the way that you would edit. So like you draw on it and then you can like, it's a big working template called like a canvas. So you can
Yeah.
work on the canvas like a big mood board type thing and you can make your edits there versus
Okay.
ChatGPT where it's a chat thread, like a text message.
That's really cool. Okay, so that's a fun way. So that feels we kind of are diving a little bit into the workflow. So designers could use Visual Electric to create almost like projects, like different projects to actually
Yeah.
get the common look and feel that they're trying to achieve, say for the conceptual phase, right? Like
Yep.
we're not going down the hole of like fully rendering this space yet.
Yep. And to add to that, just before we move to the next part, designers know that we don't just have coastal, Scandinavian, modern farmhouse. Like that's what you see in a lot of these apps that are really developed for homeowners, right? If you've ever played with an app that's like, oh, it's home, design my home or whatever, they're very siloed in like literal as to what a design style is that it's going to apply to your image. In, Visual Electric, what you can do is create your version of that style. So you can create, based off of your portfolio images, a brand style that really doesn't fall into anything, but you upload, 4 pictures and then it basically creates what it thinks that style is and you can tweak it. So then you could apply that same style to your clients. And they probably found you because they liked your style in the first place. So this would be fairly consistent using your own branded imagery to create that.
You're like, yeah, this is a podcast, but my brain is just like going so fast right now, just thinking how incredibly useful that is. And you made me think, it kind of feels like if I'm trying to equate it back to the design world, like, I can buy products that are directly off the shelf. They can be trade only products as is, but when I customize a product, right, like I'm creating my unique style and whatever we want to define it as, it doesn't need to be defined. It's unique to me. So it's kind of a similar thing where I'm prompting to then create this unique look and feel versus just saying coastal, right? Like here's a coastal pillow, but here's a coastal pillow with retro. What did you say? Nods to retro.
Yeah, like, I think that's what I said, but it is. It's like a futuristic nod to retro brand. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That is just next level. So let's just stay on that vein for a minute. I know we talk about this back and forth always. At some point, it comes up about the rendering and the creating full spaces. What's your opinion today? Again, granted that this changes every single day. Where are we today with fully creating our designs directly from AI? Any thoughts?
Yeah, you just can't. It's just like, if somebody tells you that you can do that, they have no idea what they're talking about, to be honest. And I see it on Instagram and I'm like, you're not even a designer. Like you don't know what goes into a project for you to even be saying that you can do all of this in AI because you don't understand the level of detail that goes into a design. And right now, you literally cannot get that with any of these softwares. So it is purely conceptual in what we're doing. So it's saving hours looking through Pinterest to grab somebody else's design that you then have to bring in for inspiration, which I've never really liked doing anyway. And then now you can say, okay, well, I have this idea, or even in the home when you're there talking to the client and say, I have this idea, let me sketch it, and then maybe even turn that sketch into a realistic render within a matter of minutes. Or you use your words when you're standing there and you say, okay, hold on, let me just show you what I have in my mind. And then you get an output instantly. So that is visual communication. It is in no way to be used to build things in the real world because it's just not accurate enough at this point in time.
Okay, I like the way you said that specifically. It's visual communication. I think designers can really use that in a practical sense to understand it. It's creating that concept, visually communicating the look, the feel, but it's not creating the design. We're not there yet.
Exactly.
Any predictions on when we get there? Like,
So the accuracy of scale needs to come into play a little bit more. Right now we have ChatGPT's O3 model. If you activate that and then put in a lot of information, a lot of dimensions, you can get a decent picture, but it's going to take some time. And I know designers, they don't have time to sit there and tweak. They're going to get frustrated because it is not right. There's so many issues with it still. So they're going to sit there and be like, okay, well, this should be accurate. I gave it all the information, but sometimes it just sees all the information and it's like, oh my gosh, it's too much and I can't do it. And it'll start to get really wonky. So we're getting there, but I think I'd give it like a year.
about a year.
Yeah. I know there's other programs out there that actually scale things in a space and drop in real products, but it's not a two-dimensional plan. So you can get a scaled drawing, like a visual as an elevation or drop into an actual picture. But for floor plan and renderings, we still need to be doing that. And I think we're going to have a lot more infusion in our existing programs to just speed up the monotonous, but not a replacement for our professional programs, just better AI infused enhancements inside of our existing programs.
Again, I'm thinking through that. I would agree with you. I think that's exactly what we'll see happen because we're seeing it happen all the time now, right? Like every program we use is how can we bring this in? How can we automate? How can we make things more efficient? So that's interesting. Somebody who's a diehard AutoCAD fan, right? Like you gotta pry that thing out of me. I love it so much. Yeah. But it's monotonous, right? There are tools that are built in to make things easier and faster if you want to use them. But I mean, it is fundamentally at its core not really changed in 40 years, like forever. But interesting because as you said that, like how could AI be integrated into it to make things more efficient, right? Like if it could read the before images, if it could read the room scan, like if it could do things to start to automate, very interesting. A lot of possibilities.
All right, so I'm using Mazing XR, which is this program that basically takes anywhere from 1 to 3 of your pictures, like JPEGs or PNGs, right? So not the 3-dimensional images of anything. That's what we're going to create with them. So I do sometimes like mock-ups of prototypes that I want to actually have as a 3D model in my renders. And then I also have AR models that I want, clients to be able to see the product in their actual house. And so that's what this program does. It takes your images and it turns them into a downloadable GLB file. And then I put that directly into MyDoma. I actually don't need to do any updates or change the file type because MyDoma's visualizer actually imports GLB files. So if you're using another software, you can convert it. But it's also giving me the AR model at the same time.
Hold on. How's the scale? How is it?
Fairly accurate.
Okay.
And if it's not, I have noticed some things come in like doubled in size just because you're not plugging in the scale with it. So it's kind of like using its AI to
determine,
give an idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can unscale it. So like you can just make things go smaller and you have control over that. And then everything is editable in the visualizer. So I just go in there and fix it to a T as to the size that it needs to be.
So then you've got basically a custom model built off of, if I'm following, a handful of images.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's fairly accurate. It's not 100% with the fabrics and the materials, but like this didn't exist, 6 months ago. So like we'll get there.
No. And think, Jenna, like I'll date myself and maybe you a bit. Like remember custom modeling in SketchUp? Like how long it would take to build something? And let's be honest, even when you knew it was accurate, it wasn't 100% because there's things you're like, you know what? I just can't get that detail to model the way I want. And no one's going to see it underneath that chair, right? Or it's not perfect, but it's close enough because at the end of the day, what I'm sharing to a client through the 3D model is the client is not building that chair. The client is common look and feel, scale, material, so as long as those pieces are accurate. So I'm mind blown that what a time saver.
Yeah. You know how long I've been asking for this? I think since, we got together back in 2022, I was like, there's got to be a faster way to model. Yeah. This is ridiculous. That's the time suck of interior design is modeling the products because nobody wants to create them for us so that we could sell their stuff. And we don't want to spend endless hours in the SketchUp warehouse looking for them.
No, off the SketchUp warehouse. I mean, it's like what? I'd say like 50-50. There's definitely a lot of good stuff in there. But at the end of the day, it's independent creators, whether the scale's correct, did they use too many polygons, is the file enormous? We've all been there where you grab something, now your file's giant and chugs. And
Yep.
Yeah, been
Yep.
there, done that. But how cool. What a great way that we can speed this up. And yeah, so you just said you think it's about 3 images to create the model?
Yeah, 1 to 3. White backgrounds. Yeah, I've got some trainings on this in a blog post about how to convert the files if you need them for other programs.
Of course
But
you do.
I love that. Yeah, I love that
I'm just
program.
like, let's start. You get me all inspired sitting here. I'm like, what can I go create? I'm going to start creating some models.
I know you're gonna go render and make some conceptual images for your shop
My
now.
shop, the shed. It's only a shed. um,
Sarah's building in her backyard. Just a little context. She's
yeah,
putting
yeah.
in a shed shop with backyard.
Shed shop, studio space. It's a multi-use space, so it's going to need some serious rendering. But you know what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be doing some conceptual models now. I'm going to have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Except we'll take it the next level, and you do know we'll probably end up trying to build it ourselves because that's just
Right.
the way we do things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll give you
We'll
more
sketch
content.
it, bring it into a picture, take that picture, turn it into an AR model, see it in your shed when it has walls, and you're going to be like, oh, I love that chair. We're going to go build it now.
Okay, so you do realize you're asking me to make digital content, so like
Yeah.
actually do this for you, but I probably will. Twist my arm.
I want to see it. I think that'd be cool.
Okay, all right, you're making more work for me, but I love
I
it.
know.
I actually do love it. I'm quite inspired by that. So that leads me to think. Okay, so we've talked about the visuals. We've got our ChatGPT. We've got our visual electric. We can do our custom models. We're pretty rounded overall in like the visuals of technology for visuals for designers. And I'm feeling like I'm excited by it. Like generally, like this is a kind of I always miss doing design full time, but this is an exciting time to have this like what did you call it? Visual, not storytelling, communication, like at our
Yeah.
fingertips. You know, I think
That's
it's
been my Instagram since I started doing e-design. That was like my tagline, visual communicator, and it's never been more real with AI right now.
yeah, it's a pretty phenomenal time we're in. So that leads me to, so we've done this visual. Let's talk a little bit about maybe onboarding, some workflow. Let's move into the, okay, we've done the conceptuals. How can we use, what kind of tools can we use to, improve our onboarding and our workflow? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so note takers number one. Are you using any right now?
We use mostly AI Companion, like through Zoom. That is the one we're
Yep.
actively using. We've used Otter AI. We've used a handful of them, but currently, as many designers, I can assume, like you start to consolidate some of your subscriptions and try and decide if what. Yeah, I would say right now it's mostly AI Companion is what we're
Okay.
using.
All right, cool. Yeah, so in Zoom, you're using AI Companion. I also use Zoom and previously was using Fathom. Still really love Fathom, but just like what you just said, consolidate. So when my other favorite program, Loom, which is where I shoot all of my videos, they now record all of your Zoom videos and it goes to your library and then it gives you incredible like outlines that are time stamped and then action items. Like it's Fathom on steroids and it's like I'm already paying for it. So it's included there. Yeah.
Sorry, it connects. How do you connect it with your Zoom? It's just
So
a.
there's a meeting tab now in your Loom. And
Mhm.
so Loom, when you go to the meeting tag or even up to your settings, it says, do you want to hook this up to another integration? And so I hooked it up to my Zoom like the day that it released and never looked back. Like it is amazing. I dropped Fathom like a week later just because why am I paying for this when I already have Loom that I'm using for videos? And it instantly, like you don't have to wait for the download like with Zoom, but it will instantly send you and whoever else was in the meeting the recap of that session. And it is so hyper detailed. Like they must be using Claude or something because it's a really good outline.
Let's talk a little bit about Claude because we both love it. Share with designers what Claude is again. I know you've done this 1,000 times,
Yeah.
but it's such a great program.
Yeah, Claude, the
Yeah.
writing tool. Okay, because
Oh
we're
wait.
talking about note
Oh,
takers.
I'm
So
thinking about
Claude
Claude.
is the other
Sorry.
one.
Yes, I was talking about Claude. Yes. Oh, goodness. Yes. Claude
Oh
is the one
gosh.
I meant. Let's do Claude.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we got Zoom and Loom, and then we got Claude and Plod. So it's confusing. So Claude, just to take a step back, Claude is an AI like writing tool. It's really good at writing research and apparently very ethical. So I use that through Perplexity. That's a whole other thing. But what we're talking about right now is note takers. And Plaud, Plaud, is basically a note taker that now comes in like a pin version, but I have a little flat, like almost like a floppy disk, but like half the size. It can be in your hand. You can walk around with it, and it's a recorder. You can also put it on your phone and record two-way conversations. We're always disclosing, right? We're always just telling people that they're being recorded. But this is for in-person meetings, where Fathom or Loom or Zoom Companion, those are for your online meetings. And it just joins as a note taker, and it's also recording.
Yeah, so useful. So we have used something similar at industry events. It's great. There are some great conversations. And then we tell people, we're very forthcoming. Like, would you mind if we record this? Because there is this energy that happens when you're face to face with somebody. And, you don't want to, you don't have to be taking notes. You could come back and say, oh, right, that's what we talked about. This is the summary. And sometimes it's action items and sometimes it's just inspiration, right?
Yeah,
I love it.
too.
Like note takers they're phenomenal. So let's talk a bit about that. How do you recommend designers use these note takers in their workflow? What are your recommendations?
So let's start at the beginning. Okay. So let's say you get an inquiry and you're talking to that person, whether you go out to their home or if you're having a phone call or if you meet virtually. Record it, because the next step after you talk about their project is to basically take that initial conversation and turn it into a proposal using your transcript. So you copy the words, right, that you said from that meeting and then put it into ChatGPT or Perplexity or any of your favorite large language models and basically say, okay, here's a sample of my proposal, and you can do a custom GPT for this too, so it's already trained on what you like in your formats. But you basically say, here's how I like it, here's my transcript, write the, what is it? I'm saying presentation, proposal.
Yeah.
Write the proposal for me. And then you take the words, and then you do have to like go to to Canva and pop it into your proposal template and make it look pretty. Also, probably take some of the words from that conversation about how they want the space to feel, extract that, put it into a prompt, go to either ChatGPT or Visual Electric and create inspirational imagery to pop in that proposal.
Yeah.
It's all your words. Your words are gold with AI.
This is so exciting, right? Because we know how to do this. We rinse and repeat the same process, but we're doing things inefficiently, right? Like we're creating these templates. That's fine. They're saved as docs or Google Docs or however you do it, right? Or you put it in Canva, but you still have to think about every time, right? What was the objective? What was the budget? What is the common look and feel? What are the timelines? What are the constraints? Like all these things, because you are sitting there interviewing and speaking with the customer anyways. Like you're having this, but to have it digested back in a clean, easy way to present it, like on point, it's just like that will take. It's been a while since I've been doing full service design, but that post meeting process was definitely a few hours of like gathering and writing and making sure, like going through every little, because you don't want to miss details because you kind of get one shot. It looks really bad if you write back a proposal that's missing something significant the client asked for. They don't immediately, they can lose confidence. It doesn't mean they're not going to hire you, but I think it's really important. I'm a little bit serious on that. Like I like to make sure that I'm coming back with exactly what your wishes and needs were, that I address them in the right way. And if I can't do them, I'm still addressing because they want to be heard.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Verbatim. It will take out the words. I mean, I have phone calls sometimes now, and I hate talking on the phone. So some random people get my phone number and I do have to talk on the phone, but I don't always remember to turn on my note taker when I'm doing that. And I will look back at conversations from like 3 months ago when I'm going to like follow up with something. And I'm like, what did we talk about? I don't see my recording. Like, I don't know how to have conversations now that are business related without recording because I have so many in a day that I'm like, I don't know what weighs up anymore, So I need those as reference points.
Yeah. And I would say like you've built this muscle memory, right? Like anything new, once we start to repeat it and use it, it becomes second nature. And so when we take that thing away, we don't really know how to do it without. Okay, and we talked about note takers, but which one? So if I'm actually having a phone call with you, which one are you using on your phone? Like, are you using?
I'm using Claude for that one. And then, so I turn it on and then it's recording to my device into the app. So it's going into the app. It also does like consolidate things and summarize, but I usually just take that transcript and put it right into ChatGPT, like with all the words. I also, if I was just doing a walkthrough or like leaving somewhere or just like out for a walk and wanted to brain dump everything that was in there, I use my notebook app. in my phone. So I use Samsung Galaxy, but I know that Apple also has this too. So if you go to like your note section, there is now a transcriber. So I have mine set up as a widget. All I have to do is click it, and then I just start talking and it starts recording what I'm saying. So this is really great for trades too, leaving like installs or something like, hey, here's all the notes, and then just send off the notes immediately so to the next person. So everybody has everything in one place. And what I actually do is, not to bring this back to MyDoma again, but I'm going to because I use it. But after meetings, I will take the summaries and then in the notes section, create different cards with action items, like hot things that we talked about, and then to-do lists right there. So I can check off from the transcripts in the notes section and then invite the corresponding people that I'm working with, like from my team, because I do new construction in Florida. So they can all see it, and then the clients can see it and see that I'm like working on stuff.
Again, like I'm just, the mind blown. It's just so cool, the things we can do, the technology at our fingertips. I love that. As a designer, if I don't have Claude, we have the note takers on our phone to transcribe our own voices. Is there built in for actually recording conversations, or do you have to use an extra app? Or you?
You could use that note taker transcriber too. The only reason why I have Plod in addition is because I can't have my note taker up and do other things on my phone at the same time. So it's really just that one.
It's just the one app. So then, okay, so I see why. Okay, got it. Very cool. Yeah. Okay, so talked a bit about note takers. I know that you're very thoughtful in your client onboarding. Like you've spent a lot of time on how you do that, and that you've talked to a lot of designers about it. Is there anything you can share about how you do, like that you want to share with everybody, about how you recommend people do their onboarding, their clients?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that I cover in a lot of one-on-ones actually is my onboarding questionnaire that I created in Typeform. And I look back to see when I joined Typeform just yesterday, and I joined 7 years ago. So that's how long I've been doing this process and adapting it. So because I've always practiced virtually, I create a questionnaire that basically asks, about their project. I get all the notes, I get all the details, but then I also now include AI flat lays. I include inspiration of different rooms so that I can, again, visually communicate, because I'm not going to say what I used to say. Do you like mid-century modern? Do you like modern? Do you like Nobody knows what that means. So I show them and then I say, pick which one you like. And then I have a spreadsheet that it creates afterwards. Okay, so it will download a CSV file for me with all the results for their questions. I take that and the initial call, and I will put that into ChatGPT and basically say, create a client project profile for me based off this information. Tell me about the project details, tell me about their style, tell me about must-haves, things they don't like. And then what I do is I actually bring that over to Max to launch a project. And Max is, the AI assistant in MyDoma. That when it first came out, I don't even know how long ago that was, almost 2 years
Close
now.
Yep.
Yeah. So when it first came out, I was like, well, let me see how I can integrate this. And it was like the perfect next step just to save a little bit of time with that workflow that I was already starting to initiate with like the consolidating of the transcript and the questionnaire. So now what I do is I say, okay, make this a really brief summary and look at the floor plan if I have one and list out every single room, comma spaced. Basically, when I tell Max that to launch my project, because that's what Max does, he helps you to launch a project in MyDoma like really quickly versus going through and setting up every single section, which is time consuming. That would take me sometimes 20 minutes to just set up. Now it's instant with this information. So all the views, which are basically your shopping lists, if you want to think of them, that's how I think of them.
Yeah.
In your product section, because I comma spaced every single room and I said, here's the views, they're already set up for me, waiting for products to be added. That for me was tedious, but the most helpful part of the software is to be able to separate everything and use the tagging system. So having views set up from the get-go, that alone saves you like half an hour if you have a really big project. Yeah.
I love that flow though that you've done, like working through creating the questionnaire, the customer profile, and then like you said, throwing it into ChatGPT and shrinking it even shorter, right? Like we want this just very, very concise. So when we're going into MyDoma or whatever project management software you're using, you're able to just put the highlight points because you may not want the entire thing. But you could also upload transcript. Like you can put all of that information into your files and media section of your project. right? So now it's all
Mhm.
concisely in there. You're leveraging Max to speed up the project creation. And for those who don't know, just to elaborate a little bit more on what Max is, it is your AI assistant. But what it does is what Jenna was saying is it creates your project folders, right? It can create project folders for you. It can create views, which are your shopping lists or your spaces. So depending on the scope of the project and how you're breaking that down, again, you can create all of that quite easily, whether it's I know this is full service and I'm going to be doing an electrical plan, a lighting plan, I'm going to be doing structural, like whatever you're doing, or whether you are simply picking, not simply, but picking your finishes, right? Or you're doing versions of it. Like I know I'm going to give this client 3 different versions, good, better, best. You can start to build that out. But I
Yeah.
love that quick tip, that comma separated.
Yeah.
Yeah, just make it
I
easier.
mean, comma separate and then put it into Max. Like I can't even express the amount of time saving by those little commas that it really does, because like that's how it basically takes the information, like a spreadsheet, right? So CSV is comma spaced
Mhm.
spreadsheet or whatever it stands for. And so that's how a lot of these programs are taking in, and not obviously not just MyDoma, but that's how a lot of these AI softwares are taking in the information. Plain, simple, not a lot of fluff, and then it goes and it does the action with that minimal information. So for this, is just launching what I needed it to launch, not having to click 20 times to get it all set up.
Okay, so we've talked a bit about visual. We have talked a bit on our workflow, understanding our onboarding. I think that's really helpful because I would like when our designers to listen to this, that they feel really empowered and not scared by the tool, right?
Yeah.
Let's dive a little bit into that about this idea of the fear around it. What are you
Mhm.
seeing? Are designers still fear some of it? Are they excited? What's your temperature check?
Yeah, it's getting better. So the more that it's being infused in our everyday life, and the more people are seeing how it really truly can be a tool, especially if you have just if you're a solopreneur, like this now allows you to scale at a much faster and higher level than we've ever been able to do before. So again, like I know it sounds cliche, but this is 100% not a replacement for what we do. And I think that a lot of people will start to see the value in the humanization that we bring to the table as professionals, because with everything being AI and automated, we're going to get really tired of it. And we're going to see it as like, yeah, it's taking out the monotonous, but like I still want to go out and play with my friends, hang out with my friends and do, fun things in the real world. So that sense of human will definitely come back if designers are feeling like they're not booking a lot of clients because people are wanting to see what AI can do to like, help them design, and they're just trying to cut out the designer.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that designers are really starting to like get on board and see that like there's just little things that help them and don't replace them.
Yeah, I would agree. And Business of Home put out an article, it's not today, it was very recent, just talking about the discoverability, like how designers are actually being found from AI search engines, right? And I think
Okay.
like that's really important. It's like the light bulb's going off, folks. Like we can be scared, but we can also be excited because it also helps us become found, right? So now there's
Yeah.
this whole piece. I mean, maybe this is a whole other conversation, Jenna, but right, like if we talk about the digital content, we talk about the blogging and becoming discoverable, right? Like you now need to write your content, not just for SEO keywording. Like that's not what it's about. It's about how we call it. What is it? Language. Like you want to, how do you format it? You want to format like question and
So
answer
it's more
based.
of a Q&A format.
Yeah.
So like a chat based. So the way that you would conversationally ask ChatGPT something is different how you're going to Google something,
Yeah.
right? So you're going to ask a full length sentence.
And it's how people, it's just what we do. It's more natural. Language learning model, right? Like how,
Yep.
yeah, like you're,
Natural language
thank you.
equals like human language. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. This is not my space. But I'm very interested in it. I think like this is just how we search, right? Like if I go back and I look at all of the complex searches, like they're ridiculous, the things I'm asking for. And this idea that I don't need to sift through, as Business of Home put it, like blue link after blue link, like and go and sift through all that information. That AI summary is pretty impactful and that can help in some early decision making. And
Mhm.
I just think yeah, I'm really excited to see how designers leverage that, right? Like it's
Yeah.
look at your website. Like how can you become discovered? And it's not just I do calming, beautiful spaces that make your family feel at ease. Okay, everybody does that. And what do
Right.
you do? Answer a
Yep.
question. What problem
Hmm.
do you solve? Make
Yep.
it right.
Yep. And honestly, Sarah, it's never been easier to do that because these are conversations that we have on a day-to-day basis, right? So, what questions did your client ask you today? Take that put that literal question into a blog post and answer it as if you are a designer, as if you are a professional. Because what you've been saying here is like these tools are not just sourcing links, like, and whoever paid to be there at the top, right? Because that's what Google was. Like, it's very simple and you don't get a lot out of it. You see like, the top results right there. And it's not necessarily the best content. They just may have paid there or had really good SEO integrated into their site, but they might not be the best, most qualified for that job. They just show up higher in the search results. But now if you can put context to your professional expertise, that's what AI models are looking for. The backup of this is a legit person in business, and we see that sprinkled throughout their entire website. So we're going to push them more than somebody that just matches words and is just cluttered with words for SEO purposes.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm seeing is it's sifting out the crap. And it's like really giving you actual information and then you go research further. It's not just like you ask a question and then you walk away like Google is. It's now, okay, well, that's awesome. Tell me more about this. And then you sit there and you have conversations about whatever you're trying to research.
Yeah, it's how we naturally learn, right? Which I want to lead into what we started talking about off air before we hopped on here.
Mhm.
My new favorite, well, it's not new, but
Yeah.
my favorite tool right now, Notebook LM. So we're talking about this whole idea of researching. So to your point, you said, ask it a question. You're just going to get one. Sometimes we ask one question, we get the answer, and that's done. But often we want to learn more because when we're in a decision-making process of what to buy or how to build something, like for me specifically, I'm learning how to build new things. And to do that, I need many different sources. I can't just take the top one. So whether that's multitude of videos that I need to watch, some podcasts, written content. So Notebook LM, I'll explain what I think it is, and then you're going to do a lot better job. But it's basically my own notebook where I can drag and drop all the different things I want to learn and then have it summarized into either written or my favorite piece, which is into like the audio, which I absolutely adore. But as somebody who's very curious and a lifelong learner, like this is a tool built for me because if you saw my note-taking systems, yikes, right? Like I'm always just like, follow up on this link, watch this video, here's some bullet points, but what do I do with that information, right?
Yeah.
So having this visual notebook for me has been a complete game changer from a learning perspective.
Yeah. So you basically in Google Notebook LM, okay, so it's a Google product.
Thank you.
It's okay. I always forget like how to find it, but that's how you can find it. If you just search Google Notebook LM and then you have like a regular Google email, you'll be able to access it. So you are taking your files, you're taking maybe transcripts and notes and website links, and that's what you're entering in your Notebook LM, right? Is that typically what you're uploading? Okay. So then what it does is it basically looks at all that information and it's like, okay, what do you want to know about this? So if you look at it as like the project where you're taking every single transcript, you're taking all your notes from that, anything written, presentations, whatever, you can put it all in one notebook and then basically look back and say, what did we say about the pendants over the island? Was that going to be 1 or 2? Look back in the transcript and you can chat with it and it will reply to you. But also the podcast recap summary is what you love.
I love it.
It's cool.
I love it because you and I have talked about this many a time. So we all learn differently, right? Like as much as we're having a conversation now, I'm able to, this is very engaging and I can do this. But when somebody's just talking at me with no visuals, no written words to support that, I struggle to actually retain the information. When somebody has a plain language conversation, my brain can listen and it can follow along. And so being able to put this into this podcast format, I'm very responsive to it and I just love it. So here's an example. I recently put in a pool. We have no idea how to take care of a pool. I don't know how the equipment works. I don't know anything. Extremely overwhelmed. Because, on paper, I'm like, woohoo, cool. We're just going to swim and everything's great. But really, like, this requires a lot of work, right? And so my husband and I basically like started like going down the rabbit hole, like, too many YouTube videos. And we went through the pool company's help guides and, it was just like stuff and stuff and stuff. And I was like, I'm overloaded. Right. And I don't know what I don't know. That's where my Notebook LM was like just on point because I fed it all this data and then I had conversations and said, I don't know anything about owning a pool. help me,
Mhm.
right? And it built very concise instructions, a helper guide. It made me my AI audio and sat there just listening. I'm like, wow, I feel like a pro now. I know how to put the chemicals in and what to watch for and how to check. And it just created this sense of like comfort in something that I had no idea about, right? But again, I'm a research person. Like I like to look at all these things, but it
Yep. I'm laughing because I envision you floating around in your pool with headphones on, listening to the podcast version of how to take care of your pool.
like, yeah, that sounds about right. But also like, I think for our children, like learn all different ways, and we're learning this more and more. And I have
Mhm.
very, very curious children that are like want to learn very complex things. I'm like, I don't know how to teach you those things. I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
like now I can do this, and I can change its tone of voice, and I can explain who it's
Mhm.
teaching to. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
a complete. I can take complex ideas and put them in and say, can you explain this for somebody who's 8 years old? That is a
Yeah.
very different conversation than an adult. And what do we need to
Yeah.
teach them? Yeah, I'm
So good.
genuinely excited. And I think relating it back to designers, you're never going to stop learning. Like,
Yeah.
your craft, but there are things
Mhm.
changing so much. Think of the building code changes, right?
Yeah.
Think of like, again, back to putting in this pool recently, having to navigate the whole permit process again. It was complex, right?
Yeah.
And to be able, like, I
Mhm.
have enough background to be able to read through that and understand it. But again, if I was able, like, I could just put it in there and have it teach me what has
Mhm.
changed. What do I need to
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I think designers,
Yeah.
like, this is a great way, not just feeding it questions, but you have multiple
Mhm.
sources. I think that's what's
Yeah.
different.
Mhm. Yep. It's not just one, you're getting like the full picture of things
Hmm.
because you told it that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. So the podcast that you're talking about, I did two things I just want to point out. I actually, one of my first episodes was me and actually, no, it was just Notebook LM doing a podcast. So I think it's like the one where AI does the podcast and it's like one of the earlier episodes, but it's come a long way. I mean, I've been talking to Google about agent space for about a month now. And as of today, which is like mid June, I believe it's now out for everybody. And it actually includes Notebook LM inside of it. So it's basically like all these different agents, if you want to think of them like custom GPTs, if that relates more to you. But it's like that, but with your Google suite. And now with the power of Notebook LM also integrated. So it has all your notes, all your information, and then you can have intelligent conversations. And they're like little assistants that help you to actually follow through and automate getting the task done so that you don't have to do the literal task. And that's the next part of AI. That is where we stop doing the middleman work and AI does it for us. And that's where we're going to be going with this.
So essentially, we can leverage AI to work in our business so we can work on our business. Like that whole struggle
Exactly.
that designers are constantly getting in the middle of, right? Like it's just so tough to pull out because you get stuck in the to-dos of the day-to-day, the things that are just time consuming. But if you can use these agent force to be able to do that,
Mhm. Exactly. I mean, the monotonous back end that literally nobody knows about, but you have to do. So I've been planning all the next 6 workshops, the live workshops for the daily, and I want to release all of them at the same time. I've also been doing graphics and all of the same things I'm going to mention in a minute for our local IDS chapter for the next 6 months. So right now, I've been planning and getting all the back end work done for 12 different events. Okay. So if you haven't seen me in 3 weeks, that's where I've been. I've been writing all of these things out and building websites. But think about what goes into just planning events, right? Or like getting your new service out if you're a designer. You don't just like launch the service and you're like, okay, people are going to come. You have to write the sales page. You have to create a product for it. What's your email series after they purchase the product? How are you tracking everything? Where's it on your website? And then like, how does that flow to your social media? Is it linked on your social media? And then it's like, what's your nurture sequence after they sign up? And then the graphics. I mean, you have to do all the graphics to it too. Now imagine doing that 12 different times. I can't wait for AI to just come out and be like, here it is, it's all
yeah.
done. In a matter of 5 minutes, it would create the graphics, the workflows, and everything. That's what's next. But right now, it took me probably 40 hours to do all of that.
Wow. Also, 12 events. Sorry, I'm picking up on the wrong thing here. That's a lot. You're busy, but still, you're right though. Like it's automating it, making it easier, but it's not it's making it more efficient, but it's not fully automating yet. But
Right.
not,
Yeah, and
I
there's
think,
still
yet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's still so much that I'm like, I had to scrape half of that out because it was either not the correct information, not how I wanted to sound, or like I just needed to rewrite it entirely in a different voice. So it's not just like set it and forget it and have it go out. Like you literally have to look through everything and make sure that it's legit and not fake information, which ChatGPT likes to sprinkle in there a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
How I know that. Okay, Jenna. So I could talk to you for hours about this. Like I think we could
We
just
covered
keep
a
on
lot.
going. But I want to thank you for letting me like flip the
Yeah.
conversation around just as somebody working in product development. Like I want to know, I think you've provided a ton of knowledge that we can bring back to our designers and then, our team too, as we want to think through this, because ultimately our goal is to leverage, not be afraid of these tools, right? We want to leverage the tools and how do we improve that efficiency? Like we've got our Macs and that's great, but how do we take it to the next level? What does that look like? So I want to thank you so much for your time today because you've taught me a lot and inspired me. Is there anything?
Well, thank you.
I love how I
Thank
just
you for
took
being
your
here.
podcast
This
over.
is
I'm like,
fun. I love it.
up to you. If you can leave us with, is there any words of wisdom, thoughts?
Get ready.
Ooh.
Because if you thought this was crazy, what we can do now, let's talk in a year. It's going to be absolutely wild. And right now, regulation is non-existent. So that scares me a little bit. I've talked about that on previous, and also the environmental impact that but that's the trajectory right now. And they're moving fast and furious. And while it is going to be helpful and useful, it's also a little scary. So just make sure that you are staying up to date. You're like watching, hopefully listening to this and just seeing what's out there so that you don't get blindsided when it gets really wild in a year.
Yeah. So exactly. Like be excited, be curious, open-minded, and just listen to what's happening because we're at a pretty big inflection point of change, right? These happen every so many cycles and we're in one right now. And it's an exciting time, but it also comes with, you got to be cautious too. Right.
Yep. Cautiously optimistic. That's how I look at AI.
I think I like that advice. So Jenna says, be cautiously optimistic. We learned some tools to learn. Thanks, Jenna.
Thank you, Sarah. All right. I'll see you at Market, right? In October?
Yes, you will. Can't wait. I'm sure we'll be talking more about AI. And
I'm sure we will.
And half of these things will have changed again. So we'll be ready for what's new.
Oh my gosh, constantly.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the AI for Interior Designers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and tune in next week for more AI tips for your design business. See you next time.